Hi everyone. In the previous lectures, we introduced the idea of negative feedback. We saw what are the benefits that negative feedback offers. One of the major benefits of negative feedback is the constancy of gain and reduction in nonlinear distortion. In the previous lecture, we saw that negative feedback also extends the bandwidth of a circuit. But we said that that extension of a bandwidth comes at a price of reduced DC gain. And that is something that you can get even without going for negative feedback. Now we'll look at some other benefits that negative feedback offers. So shown here is a conventional two-port model of an amplifier. We discussed there are three important parameters, low frequency parameters of an amplifier: the input impedance, the output impedance, and the forward transfer gain or the open loop gain of an amplifier. Now, what we are interested in is that what happens to these three parameters after the application of negative feedback. So that's what we will be trying to understand in this lecture. We will look at different amplifier models, which is voltage amplifier, current amplifier, transconductance amplifier, and transimpedance amplifier. And we'll see after the application of negative feedback, how does the input and output impedances change. Now shown here is a block diagram representation of a negative feedback system. The input here is X, output here is Y. And in a general system, since it's an analog system that we are dealing with, the quantity of interest X can either be voltage or current. And similarly, the quantity of interest at the output can either be voltage or current. And the ratio of Y by X is what we call the transfer or the closed loop gain of the system. And that again will depend upon the open loop gain and the feedback factor. Now, one thing that we will be using often in this lecture is a very simple result, which is after the application of negative feedback, the actual error input, the actual input signal that's being applied to the input of the amplifier, let's represent it as E. Your E here is X minus YF. YF is the feedback quantity. Now this value of E is given by X upon 1 plus A beta. So which means a small fraction of the input is going to actually appear at the input of the amplifier. In open loop, if there was no negative feedback, the entire input will usually appear across the amplifier. But with the application of negative feedback, what we are seeing here, the actual input of this amplifier is E. And that E, I have already derived this result many times. So is simply given by the X input X divided by 1 plus A beta. A very small fraction of the input appears across the amplifier. And intuitively, we have already discussed, if I assume A is infinity, if A is infinity, what will happen to the error signal, the input of the amplifier? That will go to 0, right? The input of the amplifier will go to 0. If the input of the amplifier goes to 0, then X minus YF is 0, which means YF will be equal to X. And we know YF is simply beta times Y, and therefore, if you ensure A is infinity, the negative feedback system forces the output to be equal to 1 by beta times X. It actually forces these two inputs to be equal, X and the feedback quantity to be equal, which in turn can also be written as output being equal to X upon beta. And I said this is one of the most important properties of negative feedback amplifiers, which is often exploited in many systems, which are even in use today. So all we need to understand here is that after the application of negative feedback, a very small fraction of the input signal X appears at the input of the amplifier. And what fraction? It is given by 1 by 1 plus A beta. So first, we will start with our analysis of a voltage input, voltage output amplifier. The input is voltage, output is also voltage. So it's a voltage input, voltage output amplifier. And here is an open loop model of this voltage amplifier. I've assumed that the input port R in is your open loop input resistance, R out is the open loop output resistance. So because it's a voltage amplifier, the output can be represented by a Thevenin model. So, and the open circuit output voltage is given by A times the input voltage V in, or the input voltage across the amplifier V in. So A V in is your open loop voltage, R in is your input resistance, R out is the output resistance. Now, how do you measure these quantities? I mean, if I want to measure the unloaded gain of this amplifier, then I will open circuit, RL will be infinity, and then I'll apply a source input at the source terminal Vs. Here the source is assumed to be of zero impedance, so Rs is zero and RL is infinity. So this is the condition for measuring the maximum attainable gain in a voltage amplifier. If I do that, then your output voltage will simply be A times Vs. So the maximum attainable gain or the open loop gain is A itself. Now to measure Rin, we will just apply the voltage source Vs and measure the current In drawn by this amplifier. So if you look at this amplifier here, I've grounded this terminal, input terminal here, one of the input terminals. So I in is simply given by Vs upon Rn. So therefore the input resistance is the open loop input resistance of the amplifier itself. Okay, which is obvious because I'm measuring open loop input impedance. And the method to measure output resistance is also something we discussed many times. You short circuit the input voltage and apply a test voltage at the output terminal and measure the current at the output. What will be that value? If I short circuit Vs, what will be the value of Vn? Vs is 0, so Vin will also be 0. If Vin is 0, this terminal will be at 0 volts. If this is at 0, what will be the output impedance seen here? What will be the current drawn? Let's assume Ix is the current flowing here into this. What will be the value of Ix? You are applying a voltage Vx upon R out, right? This terminal is at Vx and this terminal is at 0 volts. So Vx upon R out is your current. So therefore Vx by Ix is R out itself. So this is something we already discussed in great detail. I'm just quickly refreshing it. So we'll we'll be able to follow you will be able to follow the content very easily. Now shown here is a negative feedback voltage input voltage output amplifier. Now what I'm doing here is that I'm feeding this voltage V out entirely to this feedback network. Now I'm going to make some very simple assumptions about this feedback network. This feedback network is drawing zero current. It's not drawing any current, which means I'm going to use a word that it's not loading the output. Okay, it's not loading. So that's called feedback. If the, let's say I insert the feedback and the output voltage changes because of that, then, or the open loop output voltage also changes because of that, then we will say the feedback network is loading the amplifier. Now here I'm going to make an assumption that the feedback network is not loading, which means it's not drawing any current, but I'm applying the entire output voltage across the feedback network. And the feedback network's output resistance is also 0, which means this node voltage will be exactly equal to beta times V naught, which I'm representing it as Vf. So this is an ideal feedback network. So whatever we see, if you look at this output node voltage, it is actually driving a resistance Rn. Now I'm saying that we are going to assume that this beta here is an ideal feedback network. So the output of your feedback network will be exactly as desired. And the desired value is simply a fraction of the output voltage, which is beta times V naught. So that's Vf at this point. Now, this node voltage, the input voltage is Vs, the feedback quantity is Vf. What is the effective input appearing across this amplifier's input? The amplifier's two terminals, input terminals, the voltage that this is seeing is this node voltage Vs minus Vf. That's the effective input voltage seen by the amplifier. So that's like an error signal. So now your V in is like an error signal, V input minus V feedback. Now can you tell me what will be V in terms of Vs? because I'm saying that Vs is an error signal, V in is an error signal, we already saw in the beginning of the lecture, how can you express error signal in terms of the input signal, Vs? So V in will simply be equal to Vs upon 1 plus A beta, right? This is something we already discussed. So V in will be equal to Vs upon 1 plus A beta. So I'll directly use this. I in is the input current, which I'm calling it as the input current flowing through the amplifier. Now, I in will simply be given by V in, which is the voltage across the input resistance, divided by R in. But we'll substitute V in as Vs upon 1 plus A beta. So then you get the input current as Vs by 1 plus A beta into R in. So therefore, Vs by I in, which is your input resistance in the closed loop, is R in into 1 plus A beta. So it's getting input resistance in closed loop, it's getting multiplied, it's going to look like an amplified version of the input resistance in open loop. Does this result make intuitive sense? Now let's look at, see, we have made some assumptions in deriving these expressions. See, these assumptions are very important because when we actually analyze negative feedback circuits, you will see that these small assumptions, you will not be able to exactly sometimes match the results. That's because we have not met some of those assumptions or those conditions. So that's why I'm stating the assumptions very clearly here. Now, if I ask you, what is the current flowing into the feedback network? What will that be? Or I'll come to the few intuitive explanation for this, but if I ask you, what is the current flowing into the feedback network? Can I say it is same as IN? IN is also the same current IN is flowing, right? It's IN which is flowing through RN, and the same current is flowing through the feedback network as well. You have connected the feedback network in series at the input port. So it's carrying the same current. Okay. So I'll talk about the terminologies in the next lecture. I mean, there are different terminologies for voltage amplifier. Okay. But right now we will just derive the results and we'll look at the terminologies in the next lecture. So it's going to carry the same current as the input. Now, in open loop, when you applied the voltage Vs to this amplifier, the entire Vs appeared across the input resistance. But now what's happening? If I'm applying Vs, what fraction of Vs appears across Rn? A much smaller fraction. The voltage that is going to appear across Rn is Vs by 1 plus A beta, which means the voltage that is appearing across Rn is significantly reduced. It is reduced by a factor of 1 plus A beta. So what will happen to the current then? In, when you compare In with respect to open loop, what do you think will its value be in closed loop? It will be reduced, and reduced by a factor of 1 plus A beta. So now look at it, the input voltage source, this entire amplifier is going to look like a black box. I mean, this whole amplifier will look like a black box to it. Previously, in open loop, the amplifier was drawing a current of value In. Now it is drawing a value of current. I've written the same notation, but it's drawing a much smaller current. Same voltage, much smaller current. So what can you say about its impedance? It has increased, right? So you have some block and you have applied a same voltage, but the current here is decreased significantly now. Then you can say that the resistance has increased. So it makes intuitive sense. Applying negative feedback for voltage amplifiers does increase the input impedance. The next part is to calculate the output resistance. Now shown here is a setup for calculating the output resistance in open loop. I have short circuited the input voltage and I've applied a test voltage Vx and I'm measuring the current Ix flowing through it. If Vs is 0, V in is also 0. The voltage across this is also 0. So which means this node voltage is also 0. So therefore the current flowing through this Ix is given by Vx minus 0 by R out. So Vx by Ix is R out. So this is your open loop output resistance. Now we'll see what happens to the output resistance in closed loop. In closed loop, once I short circuit this node here, okay, remember this feedback network is not loading the negative, the open loop amplifier. So still these conditions hold true. No current is flowing through this feedback network. I here is 0, which means this current Ix will, can I say it's entirely flowing through this? Whatever current Ix that's being drawn out of this amplifier, it's entirely flowing through R out, right? No part of it flows through this because we have already assumed that this feedback network is not loading it because I is 0. So now, but this voltage Vx is at the output terminal. So if this is Vx, this node voltage, feedback voltage is still active. That is going to be beta times Vx. See, input is 0, but feedback is still present. So now, what will be the value of V in? V in is nothing but Vs minus V feedback, the feedback voltage. So this will be minus of beta times Vx. So that's your input voltage V in. Therefore, this gain here of this amplifier, the open circuit voltage of this amplifier will now be, which was A times V in, which will be minus of A beta into Vx. Now we have everything to calculate the resistance. The resistance, the current flowing through the resistance, if you know that, we can calculate the output resistance. On one terminal of R out, the voltage is Vx. On the other terminal, the voltage is minus of A beta into Vx. So you can quickly see that this looks like some Miller effect. It looks like an application of Miller effect. So you can even directly tell me what will be the resistance seen at this node. This node voltage is Vx, this node voltage is minus A beta Vx. So using Miller effect, you can directly say R out upon 1 plus the gain between these 2 points, it will be 1 plus A beta. But you can also derive it. You can write the expression. Ix is given by Vx minus this node voltage minus A beta Vx. So you will get Vx into 1 plus A beta by R out. So Vx by Rx is given by R out by 1 plus A beta. So the output resistance in this case is reduced by 1 plus A beta. Now, does that make intuitive sense? Now look at this amplifier. In open loop, when I was applying a voltage Vx here, the current, there was no feedback at all. So the current was directly controlled by this. So Vx by Ix was simply R out itself. But the moment you introduce negative feedback, what is going to happen is that you applied a test voltage to measure the output resistance, but that test voltage is going to excite the negative feedback, the feedback network. So then some voltage will be fed back because of this. And since it's a negative feedback, the voltage appearing at this voltage will be a negative of the input voltage. And therefore it's going to look like a huge resistance is now appearing across R out. So since the, huge voltage appearing across R out. Since the voltage is very large, the current that's being drawn out will also become significantly larger compared to closed open loop. So now look at it, this voltage source Vx, now this whole amplifier will look like a black box to it. Suddenly it's seeing Ix increasing by a factor of, let's say I just replaced this open, previously this black box contained the open loop amplifier. Now I replace this open loop with a negative feedback amplifier, and suddenly it notices this current Ix to increase by a factor of 1 plus A beta. So as far as the input is concerned, what will it think? Same voltage, but current has increased. So what will it perceive output resistance as? Voltage is same, but current has increased, therefore the impedance decreases. So it sees a decreased output resistance. So what we have seen so far is that for a voltage input, voltage output amplifier, the closed loop input resistance gets multiplied by a factor of 1 plus A beta. The closed loop output resistance gets divided by a factor of 1 plus A beta. And the closed loop gain gets divided by a factor of 1 plus A beta. Now, if you look at it, there is, of course, we said one of the things with negative feedback is that the DC gain reduces by a factor of 1 plus A beta, but it comes at a price. But it comes with an advantage. You get a near constant gain if you ensure A beta is much greater than 1. But As an advantage of this, by application of negative feedback, we are also seeing that the input resistance is getting multiplied by 1 plus A beta. For an ideal voltage amplifier, the higher the input resistance, the better it is. Because you want all the input voltage that you are applying to this amplifier to entirely appear across Rn. And if Rn is infinity, then it's an ideal voltage amplifier. So which means it doesn't matter even if you have finite source resistance, the voltage at this input of the amplifier will always be Vs. At least on one terminal, it will always be Vs. So which means the higher the input resistance, the better the amplifier is. And we are seeing here the input resistance is increasing. Similarly, for an ideal voltage amplifier, because it's as far as the output is concerned, we can represent this output amplifier as a voltage source and a resistance in series. Now, for an ideal voltage amplifier, no matter what this load, even if I keep changing the load resistance, for an ideal voltage amplifier, I will prefer the same voltage to appear across this output node. Which means what should be the ideal value of R out? It should be 0. It should be as less as possible. So now if you see here, R out is decreasing. So it's going in the right direction. So we are, of course, losing out on the DC gain, but both the closed loop input and output resistance are getting enhanced in the right direction. Input resistance is increasing, which means it's becoming a better voltage amplifier. Output resistance is decreasing, which means it's becoming a better voltage amplifier as far as output is concerned. So after the application of negative feedback, the amplifier has become a better version of itself. The only thing, the trade-off here is the decrease in the DC gain and the open loop or the transfer gain. But that comes as an advantage that now you can, the whole idea of negative feedback is that we trade off that, but we are getting an advantage of desensitized gain. Gain will be always constant. Now similarly, we will look at current amplifier where the input is current, output is also current, and we'll try to derive these results. Now shown here is an open loop current amplifier model. It has an input resistance and output is actually a current controlled current source, which is AI times the input current. And it also has a finite output resistance modeled in parallel. So generally, when we represent an amplifier model, we either go for a Norton or a Thevenin model. Since output is a current source here, we have gone for a Norton model at the output port. Now at the output port, ideally, what should be the values of R in and R out for this current amplifier? What do you think should be the ideal values of R in and R out? What should be R in? Ideally, what should be the value of R in? See, remember, for an ideal current amplifier, whatever be the source resistance, you want all this current to flow into the amplifier, which means it should have a very low input resistance. Similarly, at the output, you want all the current this amplifier is producing to flow into the load resistance. So which means R out has to be as high as possible. Okay, R out has to be as high as possible. Now we'll keep this point in mind. And we also know how to calculate the input and output resistances. The procedures are the same as it was for the voltage amplifier. Input resistance, in this case, because we are feeding current as an input, I'll feed a current and then observe the voltage developed at this node. Then the ratio of the voltage by the input current will give me the input impedance. That will simply be Rn itself in this example because your Is entirely flows through Rn. So the voltage Vin is going to be Is into Rn. So the input resistance will be Rn itself. At the output terminal, if I want to find the output resistance, we apply the same procedure. Or in this case also, I can actually apply a current source Ix and then measure the voltage Vx developed across the output terminal. Now when I'm doing this, I'm going to assume Is as 0. I'm going to make Is as 0. If it's open circuit, Is is 0. If Is is 0, what will be I in here? They both are same, right? They both, yeah, that will be zero. Then this current source will also be zero. So then, if I'm applying a current Ix, it will entirely flow through R out. So the voltage Vx will be Ix into R out, and the output resistance is R out itself. It is exactly equal to R out itself. Now we'll try to apply negative feedback and see what happens to all the input, output, and the input and output impedances, and also the transfer function. I'll make a similar assumption. I'm going to introduce a negative feedback network, or a feedback network, and this feedback network, it does not load the amplifier. Okay. Now you have to keep in mind, when I connect, in the previous example when I was discussing about voltage amplifier, the feedback network had to sample all the voltage. The entire voltage had to appear across it. But now I want the entire current to appear across the feedback network. So what do you think the impedance seen from the output, as far as the output terminal is concerned, for this feedback network, ideally, what do you think should be the input impedance, or the impedance seen at this point, what I've shown with an arrow mark here? Zero, right? So that you want all this current to flow through this feedback network. Okay. So all the output current to flow through this feedback network. Generally, we will see later, sometimes let's say we have a load here, which can be some circuit to which you are delivering some power to. We will normally connect the feedback network in series with the load. If current is the output, then we will connect your feedback network in series with it. If it is connected in series, then both the currents will be the same. Okay, they both will be connected in series, which means the currents will be same. The output current is flowing through this, and that is exactly the same as current flowing through the feedback network. Now the current flowing at this node, at the other end of the feedback network, should exactly be beta times I out. It should be independent of what is connected at this terminal. It should be independent of Rn, because I am connecting it to Rn here. It should be independent of it. So what will be the ideal output resistance of this? I'm calling this as the output terminal. What should be the ideal output resistance of this current feedback network? This terminal, I'm calling it as output. Remember, it should be high enough so that it is, right? It should be very high. If it is low, then it's going to come in parallel with Rn, and that will change what is the current that's going to flow through Rn. Okay, or the feedback current that's going to be flowing at this node. So therefore, for this ideal feedback network, I'm going to assume that the impedance seen here is very high. So this current here is IF. Now, in the next lecture, we will actually discuss about how to add and subtract voltages. Adding and subtracting currents is much simpler than voltages. For adding and subtracting currents, all you need to do is just connect the two elements in, just connect the two terminals together. Then, depending on the polarity of the currents, you can either add or subtract the two currents. Adding and subtracting currents is extremely simple. You just have to connect the two nodes together. So now I have shown the direction of IF in this way. So IF is beta times I out. Its direction is shown this way. IS is in this direction. What will be in terms of IS and IF? So the current entering is IS minus IF will be equal to IN. Right? IS minus IF. IF is the feedback quantity. Okay, not I out, but IF. IF is beta times I out. Okay. So similarly, your IN, I can represent this as a block diagram model. IS is your input current, IF is your feedback current, IN is like your error current. If IN is your error current, can you express IN in terms of IS? I can simply say IN is simply IS upon 1 plus A beta. Right? This will hold true because it's independent of, when we discussed in the beginning of the lecture, this IS and I out is independent. This result generally holds true. Whatever be the input quantity, a small fraction of the input quantity will appear across the amplifier. And that fraction will be the input quantity here is highest upon 1 plus A beta. So that's the input current IN. So now you know what the input current is already. Remember, when I'm calculating this input current, I have made some assumptions. One important assumption here is that if I'm injecting IS, okay, and similarly this current IF here is independent of RN or the input impedance of this IS. Whatever be the input impedance of the current source or the input resistance of the amplifier, this negative feedback network will always deliver me a constant current of value IF. Okay, so that's called no loading effect. It's negative feedback is not loading your amplifier. So it's always going to deliver a constant current. So this is a very important assumption we are making here. If you make this assumption, then I can say this, I can represent it with this block diagram model. The input current is given by IS upon 1 plus A beta. So can you tell me what will be the voltage developed across Rn? Because you know In, it's simply In times Rn. So it will be Rin upon 1 plus A beta into In. Right? So that will be your input voltage developed across Rn. Now remember this, in open loop, when you are injecting this current, I was just treating this amplifier as a black box. The voltage developed across it was Is into Vn. Is into Rn was simply equal to Vn. The voltage developed at this node across the current source was seeing a voltage Vn given by Is into Rn. But now, what is this voltage at this point? Previously, it was just Is into Rn, but now it is In into Rn, which is nothing but Is by 1 plus A beta into Rn. Now, what's happened here? The current source is remaining the same. The current source is the same, but now the voltage here is much smaller compared to the previous example. Same current, much lower voltage, which means what has happened to the impedance? Impedance has decreased. Okay, same current, but much lower voltage, so impedance has decreased. So therefore, Rin has become Rin by 1 plus A beta. So your resistance here has become, input resistance has reduced by a factor of 1 plus A beta. So I have shown the circuit here. So remember, at the output terminal, the entire output current flows through the feedback network. The feedback network samples the entire output current. It entirely takes in all the current. Okay? And that should make, yeah, I think I'll discuss in more detail about this when we discuss circuits with current outputs. Okay? But right now, this should make intuitive sense to you. Fine? So I've made this assumption that the entire output current flows here, and this feedback current IF is independent of Rin and a source resistance Rs. Okay, and that is always IF is simply given by beta times I out. Now, what are the units of AI? AI is your current gain. What are the units for this? It's actually a dimensionless quantity. It's ampere per ampere, ampere by ampere in this case. In case of a voltage amplifier, what will be the dimensions of A, the transfer function? That's volt per volt. Again, that's a dimensionless quantity. What is the units for beta in voltage amplifier? In voltage amplifier, what is the dimension of beta? That is also volt per volt, right? Beta input is voltage, output is voltage. In a voltage amplifier, input is voltage, output is in the feedback network as well. Input is voltage, output. That is also a dimensionless quantity. So it is volt per volt. In a current amplifier, what is the dimension of beta? That will be ampere per ampere. Again, that's also a dimensionless quantity. Input is current, output is also current. So that's also a dimensionless quantity. Now we'll quickly analyze what happens to its output resistance. So this is the measurement setup for measuring output resistance in open loop. You open circuit the input current. and then apply a test current source and measure the voltage developed across this. This current here is 0, so this Ix entirely flows through R out, so the voltage is Ix into R out is Vx, so the output resistance is R out in open loop. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to replace this inside this black box, I'm going to replace this open loop amplifier with a closed loop amplifier shown here. So I've open circuited this node. Remember, there is no current source now because when you're measuring input output resistance, you make the independent sources go to 0. For voltage sources, you short them, current sources, you open circuit them. Now, Ix is the current that's being injected into this node. Now, remember, I said something very important here. The point that we were discussing previously, or probably, uh, because the load is going to perceive, yeah. So let's for the time being, I'm going to include this current source also in series with it. Okay, I'm just including this current source because remember, this feedback network has to entirely sample this current, right? The feedback network has to entirely sample this current. And this current source, previously there was no negative feedback, so the other terminal of the current source, I was connecting it to the amplifier itself. But now, the negative feedback amplifier, to the negative feedback amplifier, I'm going to connect Ix here. Is this fine? Because the reason why I did this is because this entire amplifier should sample Ix. This amplifier, the feedback path should entirely sample Ix. So that's why I connected it this way. So now, if this current is Ix, remember now look at the polarity, the direction of Ix is in this direction. So Ix is in this direction. So your IF here, previously if I out was in this direction, you are injecting IF in this direction. So look at the polarities here, Ix is in this direction, so IF was in this direction. But now I'm showing Ix in this direction, in the direction which is flowing away from the feedback network. So can I say In will exactly be equal to IF because there is no Is here, and that value of IF will be equal to beta times Ix. Now what will be the direction of the current flow here? Will it flow downward or into the feedback network or away from this? Will it flow in this direction? Away from beta, right? This is the direction, the arrow mark that I am showing here. So previously, in the previous example, I out was flowing in this direction, so IF was flowing in this direction. Now Ix is flowing in the opposite direction. So IF will also flow in the opposite direction. So IF will also flow in this direction. So IF is given by beta times Ix. Okay, and that is same as In. In is exactly the same as IF now because there is no Is. Is is 0. Okay, Is is 0. I am just using the polarity here and just saying this, you will get beta times Ix. So let's substitute it here. You are going to get a current of value, the current that's being drawn here into the amplifier is given by beta times Ai times Ix. Okay, so the current being drawn here is this. Now, what will be the voltage Vx at this point? To find the voltage Vx at this point, I just need to know the current. I think I made a small mistake here. Yeah, I think this is fine. Yeah, this is fine. So the current here is Ai times In, so which is nothing but Ai times beta times Ix. So that's the direction in this direction, current in this direction. Okay. Yeah. So for a negative feedback amplifier, when I'm writing a negative feedback amplifier, the current always has to, I mean, the loop gain always has to be negative. So I'll just clarify the polarity here. Just give me a minute. I'll just clarify the polarity. Yeah. Yeah. So we just said that your Ix is flowing in this direction. So which means your if is going to be, or I might simply say, I can simply say if is given by minus of beta times Vn, right? Or minus of beta times Ix. Okay. Can I simply say this? Is this result fine? Okay. I can simply say this, it is minus of beta times Ix. So then simply what I can say is that that is same as the input current. That is exactly the same as the input current. So you should get a negative sign here. Okay. So right now, for the sake of continuity in the lecture, I'll go ahead with this. I'll clarify it in the next lecture. Okay. So this will simply be minus of AI into beta in the direction of flow is in this way, or I can simply reverse the direction of current here and show it this way. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So when I was representing the current amplifier model, the direction of current is this. The direction of current is this way. AI times IN. This is the direction of current. So that it's positive, right? If your input is positive, output is also positive. So the direction of current is this. So that's the mistake I was making here. So I had, this is the direction of current. So this here it is AI times IN. Okay. Now, with this direction in place, everything is now fine. I mean, I can just go ahead with the previous assumption. So I'm injecting a current Ix in this direction. So IF will be beta times Ix in this direction. Beta times Ix flows through Rn. See, your In is given by Is minus If. Okay. So that's why in this example, you can directly see that I have reversed the direction of Ix. Ix is now flowing in this direction. So your feedback current IF should ideally be minus of beta times Ix. It ideally it is supposed to be beta times I out. But here if you see, the direction of current Ix is opposite of I out. When we began with the lecture or in the discussion on current amplifiers, the polarity, the direction we used for I out was this. Now I'm showing a different direction, so that's why this minus sign is coming here. And now that is exactly I in here is simply minus of minus that. So it will be I in will be beta times Ix plus beta times Ix. I in here is plus beta times Ix. So I made a small mistake when I was drawing the model for this current amplifier. The direction of current here should be in this way. So here it is AI times In. So it is AI into beta times Ix. Now look at this. I'm injecting a current Ix in this direction. The negative feedback, because of the presence of negative feedback, a current of much larger value given by AI times beta times Ix is flowing here. So what is the total current flowing through R out now? The sum of the two currents. Right? What is the total current? Can I say it is Ix into 1 plus AI beta? The sum of the two currents is the current which is flowing through R out. So therefore, the current is the same. I'm injecting the same current previously. But now the voltage Vx developed at this output node is much larger because the current flowing through R out is much larger. So what will happen to the output resistance? Same current, but much larger voltage. So which means your output resistance will become much larger. By how much? So that's what I've shown here. I've represented, so I'll probably directly write this. So if I'm injecting a current Ix here, because of negative feedback, you're going to have a current AI beta times Ix. So you are injecting a current Ix at the output node, and the amplifier, your feedback network is still active, and that is generating a current AI into beta times Ix. So both these currents feed into R out, a large voltage is developed. So for the same current, a large voltage is developed. So the circuit Ix is going to think or going to perceive a really large output impedance. So output impedance will be R out into 1 plus AI into beta. So that's your output resistance for a current amplifier. It has increased by a factor of 1 plus AI beta. Now to summarize the results here, I haven't shown you how to derive the current gain, but since it's we can represent this circuit by a block diagram model, it's very trivial to do that. So I'm directly writing the final expression, which is AI by 1 plus AI beta. You will get this expression only if I make this assumption. The assumption is the feedback network is carrying all the I out, and the IF, the out feedback current the feedback network produces, is independent of Rn and Rs of the current source. If you make this assumption, then you will get these results. So what you get here is AI by 1 plus AI beta. The closed loop resistance, what we have seen before, was it was getting reduced by a factor of 1 plus AI beta. And that made intuitive sense because we said that the input current is now reducing. It's reducing by a factor of 1 plus AI beta. So therefore, the voltage across Rin is also reducing. So for the same current, the voltage is now reducing so that we will see the voltage source will perceive it as a lower input resistance. For the same current, lower input impedance compared to open loop, so it's going to perceive it as a much lower resistance in comparison to an open loop amplifier. By how much? It's going to be R in open loop by 1 plus A beta. Similarly, the output resistance, we just showed that it's getting multiplied by a huge factor, which is 1 plus AI beta. And this is happening because of negative feedback. And when we began this discussion on current amplifiers, we said the ideal input resistance should be as low as possible, and the ideal output resistance should be as high as possible. And what we are seeing here is that it's going in the right direction. After introducing negative feedback, the input resistance is becoming lower and output resistance is increasing. It's becoming higher. So the current amplifier is now become a better version of itself after the application of negative feedback. Okay, so one of you are asking a question, can we say by how much these values will deviate? See that we need to know the feedback network for it. What kind of a feedback network is it? From that, we can estimate the value. See, I'll discuss in good detail how to estimate all of that in the upcoming lectures. But right now you can take that if this feedback network is not ideal, then you will not get these results. When I say ideal, I told you what ideal means. The output current should be fully flowing through the feedback network. Secondly, the feedback current IF should be independent of the input resistance and the source resistance IS. Those are the two conditions. If you satisfy the conditions, then I can say the feedback network is not loading your amplifier. Okay, under these conditions, you get these expressions. Now, if it starts loading, then we will discuss in detail how to do all the calculations. Yeah, I'll come to that. So what I'm saying here is that the amplifier has now become a better version of itself. The resistances increase in the right direction and decrease in the right direction. Now, the other two amplifiers are the trans impedance and the trans conductance amplifier. So first I'll start with trans conductance amplifiers. Input is voltage, output is current. So now at the output, see here I'm putting this feedback network has to sample all the current and it has to generate a voltage which should be independent of Rn. So what should be the ideal impedance seen here at this terminal for the feedback network? The voltage Vf should be independent of what I'm connecting here. So what should be the impedance seen at this terminal? It's voltage, right? Zero. See, whenever you're looking at voltage, the output, you can model it as a Thevenin representation. Okay, a voltage source and a resistance in series. So if you want it to be an ideal, this voltage Vf to be independent of what you connect here, then the resistance should be zero. Resistance seen at this terminal should be zero. Yeah. So that then we say the feedback network is not loading the amplifier. So under these conditions, you can directly write the expression now. Look at the input here. At the input, you are applying an input voltage, but what fraction of the input will appear at the input terminal? What will be that fraction? At the input, it is voltage, right? The quantity of interest is voltage. What fraction of your input voltage, Vs, will appear across Rn? No, this is, remember, this, I can draw an equivalent block diagram model. So Vi, Vf. What will be Ve? V in by 1 plus A beta. It is just 1 by 1 plus A beta times the input voltage. So it will be a much smaller fraction of the input voltage. So which means what will happen to the current? I in. Compared with open loop, what will happen to the current I in? So can I say I in is simply V in by Rn, which is Vs by 1 plus Gm into beta. Here the forward gain is Gm, beta is the feedback gain. So Vs by 1 plus Gm beta into Rn. So if you see your input resistance, it is getting increased. So Rn has become Rn into 1 plus Gm beta. So what has happened here is that by the act of adding negative feedback to this amplifier, we were able to increase the input impedance. And that should make intuitive sense because you are applying a certain voltage, but now the input current drawn is reduced by a factor of 1 plus Gm beta, which means it's going to think, the voltage source is going to think that the impedance is also increased. For the same voltage, current is lower, which means the impedance has increased by a factor of 1 plus A beta. That's it. Now the next step, we are going to measure output resistance. To measure the output resistance, how do we do that? We will short circuit the input. So this node is short circuited. I'm going to apply, remember the procedure is simple. So I'm going to apply Ix here. So the circuit looks very similar to current amplifier, right? So if I'm applying Ix here, you can very easily see that this current is being fed back at the input. So because of which your voltage Vin will be developed, and this Vin will generate a current in return. So you're injecting Ix, but a much larger value of Ix is appearing at the output. Okay, a much larger value of Ix is appearing at output. By how much? We can easily calculate that. So you can very quickly do that calculation. Okay, so right now, can you tell me what will be that value? What will be the value of Ix in terms of what will be this current? Let's call this current as I2 here in terms of Ix. So first, remember this current here is I out. If this current is I out, this voltage Vf is given by beta times I out. Now what is Vf? Can you compare it with Vin? In terms of Vin, again, I made a mistake in the polarity of the current source here. It should be in this direction. Yeah. Yeah. So the polarity of GM is in this direction. Yes. So what is Vf now? Vf in terms of Vn. See, Vs is 0. So previously, Vs equals Vn plus Vf. Now Vs is 0. So can I say Vn is minus Vf? Vn is minus Vf. So therefore, the voltage Vn will simply be minus of beta times I out. So I will substitute it here. I'll substitute it here. And remember, it is minus of beta times I out, but our direction of I out is different. I out is minus Ix because our notation for I out was in this direction. So I out is minus Ix. So let's substitute the value minus beta times I out. I'm going to substitute Ix here. So I will get plus beta times Ix. So I'll substitute V in with plus beta Ix. So I'll get Gm into beta into Ix. So the current I2 will be beta into Gm into Ix. So what is the total current flowing through R out now? So you have Ix coming in this direction. and beta gm ix flowing through this direction. So what is the total current through R out? It is ix into 1 plus beta gm. So now for the same current, a much larger value of current is flowing through R out, so therefore a much larger voltage will develop across it, which means the impedance will also be much larger. So your output resistance becomes R out into 1 plus beta gm. So for an ideal transconductance amplifier, input is voltage, output is current. When input is voltage, you want all the input voltage to appear across the amplifier. You don't want none of it to be lost across the source resistance. For that, what should be the ideal input resistance of a voltage input amplifier or transconductance amplifier? Very high, infinity. Ideally, it should be infinity. And similarly, at the output terminal, you want all the current to flow into the load. You don't want any of it to flow into output resistance. Which means what should be the value of output resistance? Ideally, output resistance for a transconductance amplifier. You want everything to flow into load. So that should also be infinity. It should also be very high. So therefore, if you look here in negative feedback, both input and output resistance are increasing. So it's increasing in the right direction. It's changing, but they are changing in the right direction. So therefore, a transconductance amplifier, after applying negative feedback, it's becoming a better version of itself. Its input and output resistance are increasing. So that's the effect of negative feedback on transconductance amplifiers. Finally, I'll just finish the discussion with trans impedance amplifier. It's very similar. We have already done analysis of current amplifiers, so it should be very simple to do this analysis. In a trans impedance amplifier, input is current and output is voltage. Input is current and output is voltage. So if input is current, what should be the ideal input resistance of a transconductance amplifier? Input is current. It needs to take in all the current. So what should be the ideal input resistance? Zero, very low. It should be as low as possible. Similarly, at the output terminal, it's voltage. The output here is voltage. You want all this voltage to appear across the load resistance. Which means what should be the ideal output resistance? Remember, at the output it is voltage. That is also zero, right? The output resistance should be as less as possible, so that this voltage appears entirely across the load resistance. Okay, so that's what we should expect from a voltage, a trans impedance amplifier. So RT here is your transfer gain voltage. So output is voltage, input is current. So V out by IS is RT here. So this is the unloaded transfer gain of this amplifier. And Rin and R out are open loop input and output impedances. Now we'll see what happens to the closed loop parameters. Again, I'm going to make some assumptions about the feedback network. The feedback network does not load the forward amplifier, okay, which means it's not going to draw any current here. So what should be the impedance looking into this terminal? If it should not draw any current, it should be infinity, as high as possible, because it should not draw any current. And this current IF here should be independent of R in or RS. IF should always be beta times V out. The current that is coming out of the amplifier into this negative the input terminal should be independent of Rin and RS. So what should be the input the impedance seen at this point for the negative feedback amplifier? What should be that should also be infinity, right? If it is infinity, then all the current, remember, when the output is current, you can visualize it as Norton equivalent. Always, if the output is current, visualize it as a Norton equivalent. You want all the current to flow into the circuit of interest, so which means the output resistance should be infinity. So output resistance also infinity. So that's the assumption we are making. Then we say that this feedback network is not loading the forward amplifier. If this condition is met, then we can reduce this to a block diagram model, a standard block diagram model, and from that we can directly show the forward transfer gain becomes RT by 1 plus beta RT. RT upon 1 plus beta RT. Okay? So that's your forward transfer gain. Now let's look at input terminal. So I'm not going to derive here. This time I'm not going to derive. I'll just directly see what happens to the input and output impedances. Now you are injecting a current IS. If the feedback network satisfies the ideal conditions of no loading, then what will be in terms of IS? It's going to be a small fraction, right? In is IS minus IF. So can I say it is IS by 1 plus beta times RT, right? IS by 1 plus A beta, 1 plus beta times RT in this case. Now I'm injecting a current IS, but what about the voltage developed across Rn? That will be IS by 1 plus beta RT. This is the current times Rn. That's the voltage developed. So the input impedance will be Rin upon 1 plus beta RT. It is decreasing. And that makes intuitive sense because your current is now decreasing. The actual current that is entering the amplifier is decreasing. So the voltage developed across this amplifier is also decreasing. But from the source point of view, this entire circuit is going to look like a black box. It will think previously in open loop, it was developing a voltage which was simply equal to IS times Rn, but now it's developing a much smaller voltage, which means the impedance is much smaller. Smaller by how much? Rn by beta times RT. Similarly, we can derive expression for the output impedance. To measure the output impedance, I should open circuit this current source. Now look at this, the circuit is reducing to a very familiar circuit. It just looks like the voltage feedback amplifier circuit we were analyzing some time back. Okay, a little bit difference. It has some difference to it. It's different from a voltage feedback amplifier. In structure, it looks same, but operation-wise, it's very different. So if I want to measure the output resistance, so I'm going to apply a test voltage Vx and measure the current drawn. Now remember, no current flows through this. Still no current is flowing through this. So I just need to find the current flowing through R out. So if I'm applying a voltage Vx here, what is the current IF? IF is simply beta times Vx. If IF is beta times Vx, what is this voltage across Rn? The In. What is In? The input current in terms of IF. See here, In is simply Is minus If. If Is is 0, In is minus If. Minus If, which is minus of beta times Vx. So In here will be minus of beta times. So I can write this as RT into minus of beta times Vx. So what is the voltage across R out now? On one side it is Vx, on the other side it is minus of beta times RT times Vx. Now because of the presence of negative feedback, a huge voltage appears across the resistance R out, which means the current is going to be significantly larger. So as far as Vx is concerned, previously Vx was supplying a current of Ix given by Vx by R out. But now, because of negative feedback, a large current is flowing through R out. So you are applying the same voltage, but now you are drawing out a huge current. The current has increased. So what do you think would have happened to the input impedance as far as the output impedance as far as the voltage source is concerned? Same voltage, but it is seeing a large current being drawn. So it's going to think that the input impedance has decreased. So it decreases by a factor of 1 plus beta RT. That's it. So both input and output impedances decrease by a factor of 1 plus beta RT for a trans impedance amplifier. And when I began the lecture, I told very clearly that for a began the discussion on trans impedance amplifiers, we said very clearly that both input and output impedance should be as low as possible. And it's changing in the right direction. They both are decreasing after the application of negative feedback. Okay, so this finishes our discussion on what happens to the input and output impedances of the different amplifiers one encounters in analog circuits. Okay, after the application of negative feedback. Now, there are just 2 points I missed while discussing this. especially the last two topics, which is transimpedance and transresistance amplifiers. Unlike voltage and current amplifiers, the forward path gains were dimensionless quantities. In case of voltage and current amplifiers, the forward path gain A and AI, the units were volt per volt or ampere per ampere. They were dimensionless quantities. But in a conductance amplifier, what is the units of a GM? Output is voltage, output is current, input is voltage. So it is ampere per volt. Okay? It is conductance, so therefore it is ampere per volt. So it's no longer dimensionless. Now, can you tell me what will be the dimension of the feedback network? Look at the feedback network. Input is current, output is voltage. So what is the dimension of the feedback network? Volt per ampere or resistance, right? Its units will be resistance. So beta will be in ohms or resistance or volt per ampere. So in a transconductance amplifier, if the forward path transconductance is forward path gain is volt per ampere, ampere per volt, then the feedback network will be inverse of it. It will be the opposite of it. It will be volt per ampere. So therefore, the product GM into beta, that's term, I'm going to call it as loop gain. The product, I'll talk about that in detail in a few moments. The product of beta into GM is a dimensionless quantity. See, beta has dimension of ohms, GM has dimension of Siemens, but the product of this, it's a dimensionless quantity. Similarly, if you look at a trans impedance amplifier, what is the forward path gain dimensions? RT, right? So it is volt per ampere or ohms. The forward path gain is volt per ampere or ohms. What about the feedback network? The feedback network input is voltage, output is current. So it is ampere per volt or is it transconductance. So if the forward path gain is volt per ampere, feedback path is ampere per volt. So in case of a transimpedance amplifier as well, it is inverse of the forward path. The feedback path gain is the inverse of the forward path. I mean, the feedback path dimension is the inverse of the forward path's dimensions. But the product of RT into beta is a dimensionless quantity. Beta into RT will be a dimensionless quantity. So finally, to summarize, what we have seen here is that in all negative feedback amplifiers, the forward transfer function AF reduces by a factor of 1 by AF into beta. AF is the forward path gain. It reduces uniformly for different amplifier models, it reduces. But the input and output impedances, they depending on the amplifier configuration, they either reduce by a factor of 1 plus AF beta or they increase by a factor of 1 plus A beta. But we are noticing this factor 1 plus A beta in all these expressions. If you recall from the first lectures, your DC gain reduces by this factor of 1 plus A beta. Nonlinear distortion reduces by a factor of 1 plus A beta. Bandwidth increases by a factor of 1 plus A beta. And now we are seeing the impedances increase or decrease by a factor of 1 plus A beta. All these changes are happening by the same factor 1 plus A beta, 1 plus AF beta. So this term AF into beta, which is the forward path gain to the feedback path gain, is what we call loop gain. So no matter what the amplifier configuration is, loop gain will always be a dimensionless quantity. AF can have dimensions. Individually, beta and AF can have some dimensions. It can be conductance, volt per ampere or ampere per volts. But the loop gain for all the amplifier topologies will be a dimensionless quantity. Okay, so that's a very important point to understand. Later, we will take different amplifier topologies and try find out the loop gain, and you will see that since it's a dimensionless quantity, we will try to apply voltage and try to find the feedback voltage back. Even for a current amplifier, we can do that. Because it's a dimensionless quantity, we can do all of that. I'll stop this lecture at this point. We'll then start with a discussion on addition and subtraction of voltages and currents in feedback circuits. Thank you.